2D Delves, solo and co-op fantasy skirmish adventures. Let's crack this bad boy open, although I guess you can't really call it cracking it open when it's spiral bound, right? Cracking a book open is really reserved for hardbound books like Goal System Delves. Now, you'll notice, the sharp-eyed viewers among you, Delves. Oh, Dungeon Skirmish Roleplay. This is a role-playing game by Scott Pyle. This is more of a skirmish miniature war game by Scott Pyle. I point that out because, full disclosure, I read this and thought, oh, well, I don't know if I was not terribly excited about this game because I thought it would be a reskin of this game, and it is not. I've never played Goal System Delves because it really is a full-fledged role-playing game. I keep putting it away, I don't know why. It's a full-fledged role-playing game using the goal system, which is a dice pool, count successes against a target mechanic. Now, 2D Delves, the 2D does not stand for how many dimensions the game is. Instead, it stands for the kind of dice you're going to be rolling, for the most part. For the most part, you're going to be rolling 2d6 against a target number, and the more you beat that target number by, the better you do. So it's not strictly a 2-die rollover system. Instead, you've got, let's say, a target number of 7, and you roll a 9. You have succeeded. You've beat your target by 2. That means that you will have essentially 2 successes. In the case of melee, you whack somebody, you just did 2 hit points worth of damage. So it's not strictly a rollover. It's a rollover and then use the difference to measure the degree of success. Unlike a lot of YouTube reviewers, we are not going to use the table of contents as our lecture notes. Instead, we're going to do things, as is so often the case, a little bit backwards. We're going to start with the afterword, where our friend Scott Pyle, look, May 2024, brand new. If you've got a bad case of the FOMO, get it while it's hot, baby. He lists his inspiration as the brilliant Kelsey Dion's Shadow Dark RPG. I mean, the marketing was brilliant, if a little bit dishonest, but that's neither here nor there. And I've never played the game, so I can't comment on the quality of that. He also says that he was inspired by 5 Parsecs from Home, 5 Leagues from the Borderland, and of course his own techno-fantasy adventure. So as he mentions here, he produced this like 12 years ago and was eager to revisit the genre with a whole new 2D6 engine, which we're going to talk about. The book also includes, a couple of measuring tapes. Now, this is important. You need numbered chits. It's a chit draw system. And we'll get to that in a little bit when we talk about how the rules work. He's also included a number of, Vectizi. Oh, that's nice. Giving people credit for what it is. Number of objective tokens. And, these are even better. These are clear black and white for the 2 different sides. We'll get to that. And then, of course, some nice silhouettes with objective markers, giant rats, different things that you might encounter. This is, and the reason I'm going through this backwards, by the way, is that there's a couple of things that really, when I pick up a book and I first take a look at it, I can get a real good feeling for how the game works by taking a look at something like, here, the creature/foe sheet. You really only have to worry about, so we got name, primary toughness number, exceptional toughness number, special abilities, attacks, tier roll. Didn't help me out. Health is important, right? Up to this old boy's got room for 54, but that's not too bad, right? Move is probably going to be the same kind of consistent. Spoiler alert, it is. Everybody moves 6 inches unless they have some special ability. The toughness numbers, it's a little bit quirky. Let me get to that. And then we have a campaign sheet, which is really, there's not a whole lot to it. Name, length, turn. Just a lot of space, maybe a little bit of filler. Here's the real big one right here. The 2D Delves character sheet. You've got name, heritage. Well, I wish you could see. I need to turn the camera around so you can see me tilting my head in confusion. We've got class. All right, so this is all fairly standard. 6 ability scores. I'm getting a little nervous here about the amount of information that you have to track for a single individual. I'm not sure what battles comes in. Gear slots, traits, so not a lot of room for slates. And okay, so this is pretty good. This is less than an OD&D character sheet, but maybe, I don't know, I'm thinking at this point I could probably handle 2 of these and still have enough firepower left over to manage these foes, which from the looks of things, you're only going to have a couple of real abilities you got to think about. And then a nice little map-based. Is it a map-based campaign? It's not, but that's all useful stuff for a first blush. Then we get to our critters. We have a nice long creature section. I mean, look at this. This creature section is pretty thick. THICC. And I think maybe we come back to that. It's about 20 pages. The whole book, I probably should have pointed that out, is about 128 pages long. 128, you gotta love it. And then we get to, well, and then we get to, so there's our creatures and foes, and we take a look at how complicated the creatures are. The only real information you need from this is this, right? Base, exceptional, health, move, what kind of attacks they've got, any gear, and then AI nature. All right, so now it's time, having kind of done a brief overview at looking at the complexity, we can finally go back to the introduction, right? What do you need to play? And I'm a little confused at this point, because I got to tell you that it says the dimensions work great for 24 by 24, 30 by 22, 24 by 30. All the popular board sizes will work. And if you're using 15 millimeter figures, you can cut all the measurements in half. Well, wait a minute. That would double the size, effectively double the size of all of these. I don't think that's true. I think you could play this as written, inches to inches, using 15 millimeter figures. It'll just look a lot cooler because your ranges and your movement will be scaled. Your ground scale will be more appropriate. All right, so now let's get into the actual mechanics. All right, here we are, probably 10 minutes into the video. That's okay. Big thing, as I said, is an easy task has a toughness roll of 5. All right, well, I roll 2 dice, and I get a 6 and a 3, so that's a 9. Add those together, I beat it by 4. So if I had just attacked a guy, I do 4 points of damage. If I succeed with a 7, I beat my, and I'm fighting a puny little, I don't know, fire beetle or something. If I succeed by a 7, then I do 2 points of damage. Then what do we got? D66 checks. Oh, but I should point out, sometimes you will get things called a boon or a bane. In the case of a boon, you will add a 3rd die, drop the lowest. This is a boon. So, because I got the 3rd die, and I can take out the 2, now without it, I would score an 8. But because I can drop the lowest, I get a 10. So I won by 5. I may be able to one-shot that little kobold now. A bane is the same thing, except you remove the highest. So I roll the 3 dice, and I got I have to get rid of the 4, which means my result was a 4. I failed by 1. Right? Easy. Not hard at all. It's great. So that's good to know that the core mechanic is just that simple. But now I'm starting to wonder, hey, if I have to manage 6, and we looked at the character sheet, I'm going to have 6 stats: strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, perception, and charisma. I got to manage these for everybody? No, I do not. In fact, I don't have to manage all 6 of these for anybody, because most of your PCs are only going to have a couple of these that have a bonus. This is not a pure number for your character. It's a bonus to the roll. Remember this die roll? I rolled a 9. Oh, I rolled a 9, but this is a strength-based attack. And so if I have a strength plus 2, I add 2 to the roll. I've got a fighter type. He has no bonus to his perception. He's rather unlikable, and he's not very smart. So these are all, maybe he's not very smart. He's at -1. So he's at +2, -1. Those are the only stats I need to track. I'm not tracking all 6. The rest of them are 0. I don't care. I'm just doing a straight die roll. But wait a minute. Then the question becomes, if I'm playing this game against an AI opponent, does that mean that I'm going to wind up rolling 2d6 versus 2d6? And now I have to remember that, oh, my guy is at +1 and his strength is at +2. So this is a 10 versus 1. No. Because when you go to the solo version of the game, you don't, and let's actually do that. Let's go back to that Minotaur that we looked at earlier. If we were playing a game of PvP, we would have to do that, but I don't have to remember your character's stats. I just got to remember my own. Since the game says right there on the tin, it is for solo and co-op, we will assume that we're playing solo. And now we have entered into combat with a Minotaur. The base toughness number, remember, I got a strength of +1, and in a normal attack, I am going to be attacking its strength versus dexterity on the defense, by the way. So since you don't see dexterity listed here, just strength, constitution, and intelligence, I would say, okay, well, I rolled a 3, and that was terrible. Did I beat the dexterity? Even with my +3 strength, because I have thick sinews, that's only a 6. I didn't beat it. I missed. Okay, but you know what? I actually rolled a 7 plus my 3 is a 10. I beat it by 3. Okay, so there you go. I've hit with a success value of 3. And that means he suffers 3 points of damage. He's down to 12 health. Oh, except he has a light armor, which reduces that by 1. And I'm attacking with a great big honking two-handed sword, which does, well, he's got 2 massive weapons. So massive weapons are plus 4 damage. So my result here of 9 did 2 points of damage, plus the 4 for 6, minus the attack ease, light armor, so I did 5 points of damage. He is now down to 10 health. And then, oh my goodness, he's got 2 attacks. He's got 2 massive weapons. So now he's going to roll his attack, and notice his strength is 8. So in this case, because the creature is attacking with an 8, I am going to make a dexterity check. As you can see, my fighter, who has a dexterity of 0, rolled a 3. I failed by 5. My fighter is going to take 5 points of damage, minus whatever armor he's wearing. Oh, plus 4. So 9 minus whatever armor. Maybe 2 points for regular armor. I took 7 points of damage. This is not a fair fight. I hope that my fighter has some backups available. Of course, you have such things as, Medusas are a lot tougher. Higher dexterity, going to be harder to hit them. They have a petrifying gaze, and I think that probably leads to a lovely segue where we take a look at some of the bonus rules that you've got. How else does this work? Well, if you've got gang ups, if you've got 2 to 1, everybody that attacks is going to be at +1. You've got 8 in melee, so likewise, if you've got a 2-on-1 and your friend comes in, you break that into two combats. You've got all kinds of lovely things like stunned, immobilized, routed. You can grapple guys. Disarming attacks are an option, and if you can successfully disarm an opponent, then they either have to break contact with you, which gives you a free strike, or they are bound to suffer bane on their dexterity and strength against armed foes. So this is one of those games where I think disarming will really come in handy. I think it's a viable tactic. But you're probably wondering, okay, well, now that I know how the base melee goes, what if I want to shoot somebody? It's just perception is the attack roll compared to dex. And how do I know whose turn it is? And that's where these 20 chits come in. You're going to throw 1 chit into a cup for every active figure. And the colors don't matter, because really what you're going to do is you're going to nominate a figure, draw a chip. Nominate another figure, draw a chip. Then after all the chips are out and we see who all has which numbers, we just start with number 1. Whichever figure has the number 1 on it gets to go first. Number 2 gets to go next. But wait a minute, that's pretty random, right? That's kind of like the way that I play on camera, the Fistful of Lead rules, where I just deal out cards. Why wouldn't I use cards? Well, you could use cards. That's perfectly viable. If you've got 12 figures, just pull out all the hearts, ace through king, ace through, 10, 11, ace through queen, and then just use those. After a figure acts, just take the chip off, and then you can even see who all has already acted. But what if I don't want to go first? What if I nominated a figure and they got number 1? Well, you can hold your action, but there's a twist. There's a little bit of a wrinkle. What you're going to have to do is try to do an interrupt. And I'll just read it right. When the moment seems right, declare you're taking your action ahead of the next model in line. Right? So I've got number 1, and I say I'm holding my action. Number 2, 3, 4 goes, and I say, wait a minute. I want to go number 5. I know number 5 would be next, but I was number 1, I'm holding my action. I don't automatically get to do that. Instead, I have to make an 8+ perception check to time it properly. And if I am successful, then I can take my activation, and then we go right back in. If I fail, the next figure gets to go, and then I have to go. So I can't just hold it and say, well, okay, I don't want to go now. You only get 1 shot at this. You only get 1 bite at the apple. And if you're not successful, that figure gets to go first, and then you get to go. So there's some real interesting decisions that are going to come into play with that. Now, there is an optional rule for group activation, and I guess it's important to note here that you can you get a move action, normally move 6 inches. You can split this movement up, so you can move, attack, and move again. Is that a little cheap? Well, maybe, but remember that the activations are all completely random. So you may be able to do that, pop out, shoot, and pop back in, but it might not be when you want to do that. You can pre-measure at any time. That's kind of interesting. And then you've got special rules for abilities and opening locked doors. You use 2d6 to find out how tough it is to open it. Look, I rolled a 7. It's going to be an 8 up. Okay, I got to make my strength roll versus that 8. And on a 3, I just hurt myself. So that's pretty much that. I guess the other thing we should probably talk about, you can charge up to 3 inches. You add +1 to your strength on a charge just for that first turn. And then I think we're just about ready to get into campaigns. But before we do, I did want to talk a little bit about magical stuffs. Because, well, there's 2 things we need to talk about first. We should probably point out that, okay, fine, 3 things. One of these days I'm going to have notes. So 2d6, roll over, degree of success indicates potential for good, right? Degree that gives you a numerical record. Random turn order with the option to hold actions. Then we have this thing called heritage, which is a little weird because it's really just race. I don't know. It's not. I mean, humans have heritage. Are you a desert tribe? Are you a jungle tribe? Are you hillmen? Are you sailing men? That's heritage. I don't understand. The halfling race, short, dexterous, fun-loving, and you pick your race, and that gives you a little bonus, right? The halflings have contacts or lucky. Humans can be lucky or versatile. Dwarves either have a grudge or they're healthy. Then you have class. There's 4 classes. Expert gives you +1 to dex, perception, or intelligence. Fighter, big surprise, +1 to strength, dexterity, or constitution. Measures your hardiness and resistance to health. Your starting characters get, I think it's 10 plus your constitution hit points. Yeah, 10 plus con. And then you get 1 trait, which we'll get to as well. And then priests and magic have access to the spellcasting. And that's why I had to step back and point out that race and class. And then you have these traits. And these are just simple power-ups that everybody can have. So, for example, remember I said the dwarves automatically they can select grudge as one of their 2 little benefits. Your people hold bitter grudges. Before each battle, select the highest tier foe you face and make an 8-up charisma check. If you're successful, you get a boon on your first attack. If you're critical success, and the game does have 2s are critical failures, 6s are critical successes. On a critical success, you get a second boon against your foe. So your first 2 attacks, you're going to be rolling 3 dice, drop the lowest. That's pretty powerful stuff. You might want to hang on to that. Healthy, add +4 to your health. That's a pretty nice one. The art's kind of nice. It's a good mix of just like characters, characters standing around looking cool, and a little bit of iconography. Just kind of break up the eye. So there are magic items, which are pretty simple. All right, magic spell, arcane armor. You can guess what that does. Potions, which will give you, bonuses for 1d6 rounds, +1 strength, dexterity. Pretty simple, right? Boots make you run a little bit faster. Talked about initiative, and now I really am using the book as my lecture notes. Well, I contain multiples. Do I contradict myself? Right, so now we get into the solo AI games, and I think this is worth going over in a little bit more detail as well. Your solo and your AI foes will have different types of maneuvers that they do. Some of them are aggressive, some of them are not. There are a couple of interesting rules here. Attacking the light. There's a lot of rules in here for darkness. Bring a light source. Bring 2, because your AI opponents can see in the dark, and they will preferentially attack whoever is carrying that light source. The rule of equidistant models. If 2 enemy models are equally far from an AI model, it will move to or attack the one with the lowest health. The AI is smart enough to recognize eliminating figures is preferable to damaging figures, because this is one of those games where as long as you have 1 health, you're at full strength. Lose that 1, get down to 0, and you're basically out of the game. Non-combat AI interactions, very simple, right? First, roll a d6 to determine a character's disposition. Roll a d6 to find out whether they are hostile, neutral, or friendly. Then roll a d6 to find out what stat you're going to use. Intelligence, charisma, perception. So that's your toughness number, right? And then if you have a moderate success, you're going to get a +1 bonus on that. So, in other words, let's just run through that. Okay, so we have run into a creature, and they are friendly, so I need a 7 or better. But what am I checking on? Intelligence. So my wizard with a +2 is trying to beat a 7. He gets an 11. That is a spectacular success. Hey, I get a +3 bonus. Okay? Apply bonuses you earn as one-time bonuses to stat checks in a specific situation. For example, If you're trying to learn about a demon's weakness from an old hermit, hey, we did it. You can apply your earned bonuses to attacks your characters make against the demon. And this is really the first opportunity we've had to discuss the fact that what we're really talking about here is one of what the solo RPG people call an oracle. He doesn't tell you what this bonus is. He just tells you, make a little note that you got a +3 bonus on this. You went to the library and you checked out a book on hydras. So when you attack the hydra, you're going to be smart enough to cauterize the wounds when you cut off its head so a second one doesn't grow back. And that translates to a +3 bonus to attacks and make against demons. Or I'm fighting a vampire and now I know that garlic keeps him at bay, so I'm going to have a +3 to my constitution. I get an extra 3 hit points basically because I've got the hey, back off, bro, campaigns and advancement. This is going to be the real key to this discussion of, to remind you, 2D Delves by, I don't even know if I said it's by Scott Pyle. This is by 4Color Studios. Probably available at Wargaming Vault, but you should go look at 4colorstudios.com. Here it is, 4-colorstudios.com. And buy directly from the source if you would. We're not huge fans of corporations here in the House of Wargaming. We like hobbyists. Hobbyists like old Scott Pyle. Let's talk about the campaign and advancement. You get quest points. You actually get 4 of these things to start out. And at the end of every battle, you're going to earn more. I mean, you earn them through the battle, but they're awarded after the battle. And if you play, you automatically get 1. If you win, you automatically get 1. If you survive, you get 1. And for every loot token, you get 1. And if you earn a bitter rival, which is a random event that happens, you get 1. So you can get quite a few of these. But here's the trick. At the end of the battle, you're going to have to divvy them up into basically what amounts to victory points. And victory points go into how close are you to achieving your goal for this quest. An easy short quest, you might need 10 of them. And Scott thinks it's going to take 8 to 10 games. And he's probably right, because any points that are left over after you've dumped them into this counter, you're going to spend on healing, powering up new items. And if you run out of them at upkeep, and if you run out of them, you're probably going to have to go back to your pool of victory points and trade them in 2 for 1. Oh, I've got 9 victory points, but you know what? In order to get through this next battle, I need to cash out 4 of these to get 2 of my resource points. Oh, I'm back down to 5. So there's a lot of ebb and flow in this. And then he gives you a nice little quest generator. Roll a d6 to find out what row you're on. Let's work through it real quick. I rolled a 1. I'm going to be on row A. And then we roll 3 dice. We are going to, so our first die is a 4, second is a 3, and a 3. So we need to uncover the unknowable valley of the 4 winds. What does that mean? It's entirely up to you. This is another one of those oracles where, okay, I know I got a valley. Fine, I will put 2 hills on either side, and I'll put a bunch of trees on them, and then this is a very windy. I might reduce movement by 1 inch for anybody moving in this direction, because they're walking into the wind, and give them a +1 movement if they're moving in this direction. All right? Oh, that was easy, right? That was inspired purely by this. You come up with some real Joe McCullough stuff. So we've generated our quest, and then we go in the journey table, and we're going to wander around a hex space map. We make a navigator check of 7 up, or a perception check. And if we succeed, then for every point of success we have, I rolled a 9. Believe me, I rolled a 9. So that's by 2. I can move 2 hexes this turn. If you succeed, roll in the journey table in the following section and tailor the results to your campaign's particular setting. This game frequently uses D66. You can travel 1+ results in total hexes. Oh, actually, I can move 3. And then that's where this map that we looked at in the back of the book, it's duplicated here for ease of reference, or extend your travels to completely new lands and maps. All right, so no matter the results of your journey, if you choose to make the trip, you have a chance to lose 1 or more of your bitter enemies. All right, so I roll, and on a 1 or a 2, they follow me. So I know who my foes are going to be. At least one of my bitter enemies will show up. In the meantime, because I traveled, I'm going to make a D66 roll. Black first. Oh, 14. Altercation. 2 members of your band come to blows. Select them at random and make opposed strength checks. But don't factor any gear or trait. They just get in a fist fight. Loser suffers a minor injury, cannot charge during the next battle. So lots of fun little things. It harkens back. It's very evocative of Warhammer Quest, right? And of course, higher results are better. Over the course, gaming, let's say we reverse these. It was actually rolled a 41. Over the course of your journey, your crew does a lot of gambling. Select 2 random members, make 7 charisma checks. If they both succeed, so I got a 10 and a 9. I did. My band gets 1 quest point. Cha-ching, we'll bank that. I'm already up to 1, and I haven't even gotten to my first fight yet. All right, so we did our journey. Now it's the pre-battle. We have to figure out, let's see, pay 1 QP at the beginning of each campaign turn. This covers the cost. Oh, it's 1 per PC? There you go, plus 1 per 3 companions, right? So 4 quest points. You better earn a minimum of 4. Oh, wait a minute. Let's run the numbers on that, shall we? Let's see how balanced this is from a non-playing perspective. I generally frown on reviews that do this. Well, I just figured it out. But I think for the purposes of helping you understand whether this is a game you would like to buy, it might be worthwhile to go through this. I played... at least one of them was taken out. Wait, at least one was taken out but survived. So I had 1 survivor. I played and I grabbed 2 loot tokens. Okay, 4. That means it's a net 0. I just wasted time. But if I grab another loot token or 2, then I've got those 2 extra points left over for loot. Or 4 that I can dump into the campaign counter, if you will. Of course, if I don't have the money to spend, then I get to roll on this privation table. And on a 6, your party squeaks by, no ill effects. We hunted, we caught some deer, we put out some rabbit traps. We found some berries out in the woods, maybe some of those fancy mushrooms. Poor upkeep, weapons break on a fumble result of 1 or a 2. So as I said, if you're in combat and you roll if you roll a fumble result, there's a table that you check, and there's a chance if you roll a 1. So I fumbled, and I rolled a 1, my weapon broke, and I got to buy a new one. Well, now, because I rolled for poor upkeep, if I roll a 1 or a 2. And so, I mean, you can see already that there are just countless possibilities here. What if I'm not traveling? What if I'm poor, I'm broke, I need more resources? I can roll on the Hunt for Resources. Black die is the 10th place. I rolled a 16. That can't be good. No luck, you find no items, but at least you don't lose anything or suffer any injuries. Well, what if I rolled a 61 instead? Let's take a look at that one. I'm not going to show all of them. You guys got to buy. I'm just giving you a taste. You got to pay for the rest. Old companion. You come across an old companion from past adventuring days. Can you convince them to join you for the next battle? Make a 6-up charisma check. My wizard has a +1. 5, no. On a success, they join you. Randomly decide their class and build them as a starting PC with 2 advances. Holy Place, the city, whether you're spiritual or not, you find some peace in the shadows. Gain 1. So we visited the Fantasy Pope, and we gained a quest point. Magical or Divine Investigations. Oh, my wizard has a chance of doing some research. Roll, maybe good, maybe bad. A little bit of risk, but hey, that's what the adventures are all about. So now we get into the battle setup. 6 battles. Line them up and run at each other. You have to attack a place. Escape. But how do I know, we're this deep into the review, how do I know who I'm fighting? Right, excavation, raid, rescue. Gotta free somebody. Place D6 +1 commoner models around the structure in the center of the table. Array your foes 6 inches around it. Here's the basic profile for commoners. They only move 4, health of 5. They're not fighters. You gotta get them in and get them off. For every one you do, you gain a quest point. Location and darkness. And so here we have some random locations, but use your, again, rules as written. If your collection is short on terrain, conscript household items. And when you don't have a ready terrain board, nothing works better than a black sheet or tablecloth. So you do have permission to just use whatever is around the house. We do have some rules for traps. And then, now here's where we get into the bad guys. How do I know who I'm fighting? And I had to puzzle through this quite a bit because it doesn't make a lot of sense. I'm going to read this to you, okay? If you don't have a scenario with specific opposition in mind, craft a group of foes by making a d6 roll. Consider the average tier level of your party. That's levels. So if everybody's first started out, they don't have any advancements, they're going to be tier 1. Multiply that by the number of models in your party. I got 4 models. All right, so I'm at tier 4. The following tables provide encounters through PC tier 5 up. Now, because they're average of tier 1, you roll a d6, this is what you got. A goblin shaman and 6 goblins. A kobold sorcerer and 6 kobolds. Dungeon vermin, giant centipedes, giant rats, giant spiders. Pretty simple, but I went back and forth because this is, it's like, and then you can, if you settle on your base, roll a d6, add the following, so plus 4 tiers. Well, wait a minute, right? So if I'm just starting out and I got to fight tier 5, I got to fight an ovoid eye beast. We all know what that is. 2 trolls and a mantle bat. I don't know about that. And then look, hireling companion, right? So this kind of threw me off because I was looking for, wait, where's the asterisk in here? There isn't one. So I think, one hireling, extra enemies, maybe it's in here somewhere. I couldn't find it. But through the first 4 PC tiers, the max tier should not exceed the average tier of the party plus 1. Right. So that's where I was relieved. That's why you got to read the whole book and read every section. Even if I roll a 1 on the balance, I'm only ever going to fight tier 2 with my tier 1 boys. Okay, and I think you probably pick one of these. Baba Yaga's Curse, a hag, a burrowing Hulk, and 4 beast dudes. You gotta love it. So there are some rules for balancing and helping you pick out, and of course I already showed you the bestiary. Is it pronounced bestiary or bestiary? I don't know. Oh, a cool looking gargoyle there. Or is that a major devil? And then we have, model placement. Once all the terrain is in place, set up your adventuring band on a random board edge. If it doesn't specify, roll a d6 for the proximity of each of your enemy's starting placement. Opposite board edge. On a 1, they start within 6 inches of you. You are getting right to it. As if all that isn't enough, we have a random weird events. This reminds me of Necromunda. The, what was that called? Hazard table? Like atmospheric effects? Let's roll our d6. We got a 25, and we got tough casting. Select one of your spellcasters. His components have been compromised. Make an 8-up intelligence check on a success. We failed. They must fight the battle without them. No spells from one of our casters. That's bad. I'm glad I rolled a 52 instead. Time flux. After initiative checks have been placed, but before a queue begins, I think it means before the turn begins, swap the highest numbered chit for the PCs with the lowest numbered chit for their enemies. So what that means instead of going last, your PCs get to go first. They're going to move up in the turn sequence, which is probably going to be beneficial. And again, if you don't like that, just hold your action. You can always go last. Just hope you fail that last one. All right, so now we've done our fight. We do our fight, and then in the post-battle, we check out our injuries. It wouldn't be a proper campaign game if we didn't have, first of all, you are going to be back up to full health, barring any injuries. And I probably should have pointed out that if any of your stats are reduced to -3, you fall unconscious. It's not just health. Health down to 0, any stat to -3. So if a wizard targets you with a weakness spell, and you've already got a strength of -1, and you take 2 more strength damage, you're going to be knocked out. So, if you want a less deadly game, you can burn 2 fate points and add +1 to the 10s die. These fate points, there is a rule, really interesting rule. If you roll this and you don't like it, you can spend a fate point to switch these around. I think it's pretty universal, too, on the D66. So my 14, my near-death experience, grievously injured, misses the next 2 battles. In addition, -1 from their move and lose 2 random items. So those are permanent, okay? Because he was knocking on heaven's door. But I spend my fate point to change this to a 41, and now instead I have harrowing visions. Make an 8-up charisma check. Okay. All right. I didn't. I rolled a 7. Suffer bane on a specific stat check throughout your next battle. Roll a d6. This is why we have 6 stats. I roll a 1, and I'm going to, every single strength check I make, I hope this isn't my fighter, in the next fight, every strength check I make, I have to roll 3 dice. Now I'm at +2 still, but I have to remove one of the tops. Instead of rolling a 10, I get a 6. That's still an 8, so I'm still okay. I might be okay, but he's pretty gimpy. And then you have an opportunity to buy new blood, replace any characters killed with a new character. This costs you 2 QP, 2 of those victory points from your treasury. And I don't think you have to pay upkeep for these. You don't pay upkeep before the first battle. But you have to, basically, it's instead of upkeep, buy a new guy for twice the cost. And then check to see if the battle earned you a bitter enemy. And remember, bitter enemies turn up again on a new group. So at the end, on a 0 or 2, so now we have another bitter enemy. And I mentioned that there are ways to remove those bitter enemies, which will be listed on the campaign sheet. Then you do experience. Every 2 battles for which you survive, you get an advance. 4 such advancements equals a new tier. All right, well, you have to survive 8 battles. And then you go up a tier. And now if all 4 of your guys survive 8 battles, now you're going to be rolling on the 2 tier. You may be fighting up to 4 tier enemies. Yeah, but when you go up a tier, you make an advancement roll. Let's see, every 2 battles you get an advance, and that's just a simple 2d6, with the center going to be more likely to be new traits or spells. A fate point, remember fate points, they allow you to switch the 10s and the 1s places, plus 4 health. You can see the value of that for anybody. And as you gain new titles, you can generate them randomly using these charts. So lots of flavor in here. And I think now that we've gone through all that, let's take another look at this campaign tracker, where it says, okay, who are your party members? What are the notes so that you can remember? Because I played a battle and, oh, geez, everything got weird. And so now it took me 3 weeks to get back to this campaign. So what happened last time? Who's suffering from what? Right? What's my score? How many treasury points do I have versus my quest success? That's the legendary. Do I have any bitter enemies, respected rivals? Those come up in those random adventures. And that's pretty much it. So pretty detailed look. If I play this, and I'm seriously considering at least doing just to show you how it works, I may just take a look. See, 2D Delves character sheet. There's 3 of them on here. I may just bring 3 characters, kind of scale back the fights a little bit. Might make the fights a little bit easier or a little bit tougher, but at least we'll be able to play the game and maybe do a proper review later now that we've played it. I've offered a lot of speculation about how great this game is. But again, it's a bit like asking a colorblind guy how bright that red is, right? Or a guy with no sense of humor. It's like asking one of the school marms, is that joke funny? That's not funny. I'm not that kind of guy. So, is it good? I don't know. I mean, it reads great. It's fun. It's got some odd quirks. It's got a lot of promise. It's got a lot of potential. Would I recommend you buy it? Well, yeah. I mean, look at this. This is great art. This is wonderful art, and there's more than one artist, which I always give books bonus points for that when you add in, even if it's just something like this. Triggers the imagination, right? What does it say? Interior art by Jan William Joe Dragovich. Oh man, that's a great one. Sky Hernstrom, Tom Scioli, Chelsea Van Tol, Rich Januski, Gavin Dea. All right, and then the covers by Carrie Posing. Layout by Todd Tuttle. And then a lot of these names appear down in the playtesting. Scott Pyle's got some bros. Gotta respect that. That's all I got for you today. Give it a look. 4-Color Studios, 4-colorstudios.com. Probably Wargame Vault, if you must. Till next time, I'm praying for you.